We need the gotchi. Let's get down to business gif. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, I'm not sure if Foreign Phase or Roxy is going to be coming up, so I'll just, I guess, start here. We didn't have much business actually happening this week. The only thing happening that we had was a proposal for the DAO ETH sell ladder that closed January 28th, so a couple days ago. It did fall short of quorum. I believe the quorum numbers are off here, saying that we made 822 million%. I believe it fell short a few 100,000 votes short of passing. So this did not pass. Diddley did say in his post, if anyone wants to take the mantle on this and kind of pick up and run with it, you're welcome to do that. He doesn't have the time to continue his effort to push this DAO ETH sell ladder to modify it. So if anyone's interested in doing that, go for it. Other than that, there's literally been no other business this week. We did have a conversation started by Crypto Green. No one has commented on it. It happened yesterday at 6:05 p.m. Ghost staking to earn Badler items. Was wondering if it's feasible to single stake Ghost to earn Badler items that are soulbound. This would keep some sell pressure off Ghost, and it would help encourage stakeholders to participate in Badlers, since the Badler items would be soulbound to wallet and not resold. Thoughts? No one has put any thoughts in. If you have any thoughts, definitely go over there. It's in the DAO forum discussion. We did have some minor discussion around the protecting and scheduling 4 more seasons of rarity farming. As we know it, there were some questions. Phantasma kind of doubled down and said this wasn't the appropriate thread to discuss alterations or modifications to rarity farming. There is a separate one for ideation, so definitely go over there. But it was more asking, I guess, since we have Dan up here, like kind of, I'll bring up Aavegotchi 1's post in here. He goes, before making a proposal for more seasons, it would be great to know the PC take on their runway and to align somewhat with that. I would prefer this to give them a chance and also give the other DAO projects ongoing a chance. Have 1 or 2 rarity farmings per year seems more sustainable given the current situation. How much ghost can we use for rarity farming? Do we want to have rarity farming based on ETH or stables in the treasury too, or use the future buyback Ghost? There were also conversations about potentially buying back Ghost. Some people dropped in some ideas of buying back Ghost and sweeping the floor and basically murdering these ghosts to limit the supply. A lot of conversations, minor conversations, but nothing really big business happening. Just checking the comments. Doesn't seem like we have much comments. Let's read the comments. Give me 1 second, guys. I have to pivot over on my other computer.
Has on the rarity farming topic, like, has anyone seriously considered just making it like 10% and doing it 2 times, like kind of codifying it in a way that it's not 1.5 million ghost every time? I mean, that number was sort of arbitrary.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I've always been a fan of the idea of just like making it less, like a lower number, but still having it ongoing so we have a longer runway. But there is the counter opinion that I see often that it would, like, it's not codified, but that's kind of like the unofficial rule. It's 1.5 million ghosts per season, roughly three times a year. So not to change that. And to the spirit of Phantasma's forum post, it's more like locking in those remaining, because there's a certain amount of ghost funds that are allocated towards these rarity farming seasons, to lock in those seasons and to not make any changes, as to, avoid nerfing whales and OGs who have been in the ecosystem and kind of come to expect that return on their investment over time.
Yeah, makes sense.
Just reading some of the questions. Does that require a DAO vote, or could Badler just offer staking if they felt it made sense? I feel like that would make sense. It could be something that the Badler team works on their side of things, that we don't necessarily need a vote. Like Piglet saying, not sure, but I think it's a good mechanic. Choina is a good point. We can chat about where we are with onboarding the new directors. Yeah, I don't know if there's a. Oh, Face has a comment down here. A couple of our current directors are here now. I'm the only new guy in the audience. You guys want to lead it? Yeah, I guess I'll have the. We can start that conversation. It's yeah, we're trying to figure out where we are in the process of KYC for the new directors. That's Hardcore, Phase, and Bin Laden. I'm assuming that you guys were supposed to go through Kopi, I believe is the name. Do we have any like
Mhm.
updates in terms of that process, of like how it's worked?
So yeah, I was asking Golden Cross about this. He said that Phase and Hardcore, I'm not sure about Bin Laden, had all sent emails to Kopi, and Kopi had responded. So the I think our position on this is that the DAO Foundation is a distinct entity from Pixelcraft, and it's ideal if the DAO Foundation can like do its own verification of new people coming in. There's really like at this point, we were okay to do it for this round, but I think going forward it would be better if like the Aavegotchi DAO Foundation is able to manage its own KYC. Like we're not an official, we're not like a legal provider of KYC. There are some like legal things that doesn't really make much sense for us to be the ones KYCing for the DAO Foundation, if that makes sense. Like we're not doing actual background checks or KYC. We're literally just looking at a passport and saying like, yes, this is not from a sanctioned country. But that if we're actually doing more due diligence as a as a foundation, there would be a little bit of a deeper background check, which we're not really set up to do.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It does seem like that should be something the DAO takes on, as well as the DAO eventually setting up. I mean, sooner than later, its own. Getting a legal like a lawyer on retainer to represent the DAO's interest. Could
Yeah.
you? I guess like someone on the DAO side should set up a thread so that we can get advisement from PC on potential vendors that we can use for this process of KYCing. Because I don't know. Where like how the DAO would respond to that. Like the directors, I don't think that falls into the role of
Yeah.
a director. And Light Piglet has made this point very much that KYC is a scam because it could be faked very easily. Um, but yeah, I guess yeah. What
Yeah,
would
it's not. I think that the DAO, because you guys are basically executing the will of the DAO, so we would need to have probably a sig prop, or it should be included in future sig props. If there's like changes of the guard and things like that, and new people require, there should be a clause in the sig prop that gives someone in the either secretary or like I think we only have an official treasurer right now, right? We don't actually have a secretary, like a working secretary in the foundation.
yeah, just treasury at this point.
Just treasury. You guys have a corp sec though, which I don't think anyone's really talked about this in probably a year or so. So like Jesse points out, when you change directors, we actually do need to get the constitution or the corporate docs or something updated. So someone also needs to reach out to that corpsec in the actual foundation, because there is a legal, there is a company that is managing these docs for the DAO. It's just we're not really in close contact with them, but there is someone there. So currently, no one is authorized on the director's side to be the person managing that. That's part of the problem, I guess. That's why it's just been default. Oh well, like Pixelcraft will do it, but actually we probably shouldn't do it, just to keep the two entities like separate.
Yeah, so this might be the time, because we did speak about it in the past. It was more one director who's no longer with us happily, who was like pushing for it, but in a very self-serving manner, in my opinion. The idea of like the roles within the foundation, because there was this idea of different, like you said, a secretary, treasurer, communications, stuff like that. This, like, I guess this is the time that we should like consider setting up some of these roles so that we can, as a DAO, as we get further along in this process, and we are fully decentralized from Pixelcraft, to be able to self-sustain and to handle these things
Mhm.
without having to run back to the parents and say, help us. We need help here. um, I'm not sure how that process works though, in terms of I guess we would have to go through the DAO,
Mhm.
forum post, discuss like what, I guess, positions needed to be added towards the foundation, whether that should be director level like people, or if new people. I'm guessing it's director level people, or we needed to like actually get new folks into the foundation that aren't directors but that could fill these roles.
Yeah, we probably need to review the Constitution, but I think the Treasury is there. There's generally a role called secretary, and I think generally one of the directors is able to do that role. Like I think there's generally three roles. There's like president, secretary, and treasurer. We don't have the president, but we don't have a secretary currently, only the treasurer. But I think that would be a role that would make sense for the DAO to have that, and that person would just manage the day to day, not day. There's not really that much to do, but like any sort of admin managerial tasks related to the actual entity itself should be managed by that person.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Ross is like, we have contact with him. I don't. He's not. If anyone has like seen him on X, he's not really doing like legal stuff. He's gone pretty far down the rabbit hole with like Solidity and executing law on chain, which is really cool. But he's not super like, he's not really doing, from what I can tell, like much actual crypto law. We have been actually on our side. This is like one thing that's notoriously difficult in crypto, is to find like a reliable crypto lawyer who's not ridiculously expensive. So we also have been interviewing some candidates after our previous like we had a really nice lawyer that we had worked with, but he's no longer in the industry, or I don't know what happened. So we're also like looking for better legal, like long-term legal counsel. Yeah, he's retired. Okay. So we would be, I mean, we could intro that person whenever we confirm that. Or for this matter, I think I don't think Ross really needs to do anything, and I'm sure he would like, if we ask him a question, I'm sure I can get a response out of him. He's not going to actually manage anything though. I don't think at this point.
Yeah, just reading some comments. FIFO coming in saying directors are mere conduit in charge of executing the will of the DAO by signing stuff, if I remember correctly. Regarding Maxi Crouton, is he legally entitled as treasurer of the foundation?
I mean, directors are in the Constitution. They're part of the board of the entity. So I think anyone, like Jesse's saying, I think anyone could reach out to the actual corpsec and say, hey, we just added 2 new people. Could you switch out these people?
Yeah, trying to making a good point here, because I feel like I'm in the same boat. Maybe we can just assist with the Pixelcraft to Foundation handover. I, for one, have no idea how all this works or where to start. So I guess if you guys could give us the, I guess, links to how we can contact Juliet, I believe, the corpsec person that Jesse's referring to in the DAO directors channel, we can start that process of I guess, getting our legal house in order to make sure the DAO is on the best footing as its own entity. Because it's something that we should have done a long time ago. And the DAO, I think takes at points the help that we get from Pixelcraft for granted. You know, in that, you know, they have helped us in many ways to be like to stand on our own feet. But it's time that we should be able to do it, because as a DAO, we are supposed to be the custodians of the protocol, and there is going to be potentially a day where we have to, you know, take that role much more serious and actually step forward and handle things like adults. So it would be good to start the process at least now, while we can, to get ready for that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's the right move to make, and it needs to be done. It's just admin work that it's not the sexy stuff, but yeah, it's a good time to do it. And yeah, I think it's just we can look at the Constitution and the incorporation docs, and there's probably, you know, an email or a phone number on there. So if I don't think anyone needs authorization to do that. It's just if you want to keep it in the director's chat, happy to chime in there. But I don't think Pixelcraft, we're not going to, I don't think they'd even, like, they might not even respond. We're not directors, so, of the foundation. So I think it's better if someone from the foundation reaches out first to the foundation corpsec.
Yeah. FaZe has a comment here, and actually it does make sense. So is someone going to do the discussion and props to make the onboarding process official? It took a little over a year to define term limits and get an election going. So I guess that's interesting, because we are a DAO and we have to vote and move on all these things. I guess we have to figure out, realistically, there's going to be a budget that has to go towards having, you know, legal representation and making sure that we handle things appropriately, not like salaries for people, but just, you know, costs that are going to have to be eaten year over year to make sure that our legal house is in order. I wonder how we approach this as a DAO, because it would make sense to me that we have to vote on things like, if we're going to institute a president or a secretary, it feels like that should be a thing that we vote on.
Yeah.
Legal representation, like, is that something we vote on? Like, does the whole DAO have to agree that we want to go with this firm versus like using an AI agent or something, or even like, you know, theoretically the DAO could vote to just eliminate the legal entity and just be a dark DAO, right? Like they could do some, like, there's many options here, not good ones, but I wonder what the process looks like as a DAO, like the best way to make this, to expedite this so that it doesn't take 5 years for us to get everything in order. Yeah, the CorpSec part of it, Jesse, makes perfect sense. The new directors are already elected. Should be easy enough to call up the CorpSec and tell them to replace person X with person Y. Yeah, because like part of this, like, and it kind of bleeds into the rarity farming discussion, the idea of like, we have a treasury that is a finite amount of money, and we are using a decent amount of that towards rewards, but we do have to think about the legal entity that we have, like, kind of as a wrapper for what we're doing here. So we do have to eat some of that legal cost to have, you know, a lawyer retained or someone representing us. I imagine that any kind of heavy lift in terms of governance or like corporate governance beyond like beyond like DAO governance does it bring cost in as well. So we have to consider these things and how the DAO, you know, how willing the DAO is to fund these things, because there is like, being transparent here, there's going to be like a subset of our community that's not going to want to put money towards this. I just feel that in my soul, like, you know, and that's not a criticism against anybody, because these funds are like allocated and intended for certain things. But, you know, making sure the DAO is able to be, set up in the correct way to be a custodian of the protocol should be because that's our mission as a DAO, I believe, right? Like that's one of the core tenets of what we're supposed to do here. So I think it's important that we make sure that the future of the protocol is taken care of.
Yeah, I think when we retained Ross, I believe it was 6 or 7K, and that was basically just an initial retainer. I think it was for setting up the entity and any back and forth Q&A with him. I don't know if there was an expiration time on it. We'd have to go back and look. There probably wasn't, but like I said, he's kind of like checked out in terms of, from what I can tell at least, he's very focused on the on-chain legal stuff, the DUNAs and things like that. So we might need to get, if the DAO wants to have at least, I don't know if it's actually necessary to have like full legal counsel, but at the minimum, we need someone in the DAO Foundation that's handling the relationship between the DAO, like the entity, and the incorporation agency.
Also, I guess this is a good question for you because I've never set up a foundation, especially in the Cayman Islands. I've said when I was a tax accountant, we used to set up check the box entities in the Cayman Islands, but that was for tax purposes to like spread things around. Is there ongoing costs that the DAO should be taking on in terms of maintaining this entity in the Cayman Islands? I don't remember if because it's been like almost 20 years since I've done these things. Like fees for incorporation every year, stuff like that.
Not that I have seen. Like we've never gotten a ping that says, "Hey, we need to do this filing or that filing." So, not like I've never seen anything come through that mentions that. But again, that's it's not like we on Pixelcraft side. We do like we're a Singapore entity, so we have taxes and things that, or at least filings that we have to do. We have not managed that explicitly for the Aavegotchi DAO Foundation. So we would definitely need to, that would be like a first thing to mention with this CorpSec and say, hey, like, is there any filing or any fees or anything that need to be paid?
Yeah, that makes sense. So basically, we as the DAO, the directors, at least at this point, communicate with the CorpSec and basically get a list of things that we should be as the entity be on top of, so that we can approach the DAO and say, hey, we need to make sure that this, and this is covered on a regular basis, or as often as necessary to keep things afloat, and then we can create the proper forum post and then props to get things in line so that everything is done through the decentralized governance manner.
Yep. I don't think we need like a full sig prop core prop for should we send an email, but at least like having a budget or like assigning someone to be the secretary, I think is needed. And then you probably would want to have at least a small budget set aside for like a initial retainer. Not that that money has to be used, but if it is needed, it would kind of be nice to not have to do like a full sig prop core prop for a 2K expense or something like that. Just like a little bit of a fund set aside. If they need to be used, they can be used. If they're not, they just get returned. They just roll over into the next year.
Yeah, this sounds reasonable, all reasonable. Actually, I have a question, and this is more for the DAO. We have new directors coming in. So the previous directors were given a very small allocation of ETH to basically manage our signings, like just in case there's a high gas fee or anything like that. One, do we claw back the ETH that is remaining? Because I think I had like $150-$200 of ETH. I've used some of it, but it's still, most of it's in my wallet for signing, and I am going into a second term, so I'm fine. But for directors who were previously given ETH that are no longer with the foundation as directors, do we claw back that ETH? And do we need a separate prop to now give ETH to the new directors? Because they're coming in fresh and they're going to need an allocation so that they can sign transactions. Oh, good point, Chona. He's saying, pretty sure returning unused gas funds was in the original prop.
Yeah, it would probably be better to just codify it. So if a new director comes in, they receive their 100 USD worth of ETH for gas fees, I guess. and when they exit, whatever is left of that is they return it to the DAO. Yeah, maybe it's in the initial prop that it mentions like new directors coming in.
Oh, interesting. Like Piglet saying, I don't think it's worth hunting them down for it, but we should ask. Also, we can avoid this in the future by using on-chain DEN instead of safe. You can just pay gas from the safe. No one needs to get
That's cool.
gas. That's a good point. I think that's what we're doing with the Gotchi greeters. Okay, that's good. So, little homework that we have here, I guess, as the directors, since I think Maxi Crouton's here as well as me and Choina. I'm just looking at the crowd. I don't want to miss anybody. We should go back and we'll get that CorpSec information from Jesse and Dan in the DAO directors channel, or maybe, I don't know if it needs to be in that channel. It could probably be in the DAO discussion channel. And then we could do our due diligence of reaching out to them and asking them like basically what we need to maintain and get and prepare ourselves for in terms to start handling these things. In terms of KYC, we have to figure that part out also, because I don't know that it makes sense for directors to be KYCing people. There's probably some kind of service that we can use to do, I guess, background checks. I don't even know at this point, but we can work this out. Choina putting up a screenshot here. Let's just read it. Note, the directors will only use this gas to sign DAO transactions. Note 2, the directors will give back the remaining funds used for gas in case directors step down from their roles. Retroactive gas reimbursement to be more equitable. The directors will be able to claim the funds used for transaction expenses that were funded by themselves before the date of approval of this vote as core proposal. So yeah, we should probably reach out to well, I guess once the new directors are in and we handle our CorpSec and actually swap them out on the legal documents for the foundation, then we can go, try to claw back those funds from the previous directors. Okay, so Jesse's saying the CorpSec will likely need the new director's name and basic info anyways, so that's sort of KYCing as they add them to the docs. So like in this case, like this is I guess part of the problem. Like we have 3 new directors, so someone within the directors now would have to reach out to CorpSec and then give the information to them. I don't know if that's the secretary, like it would be whoever is eventually going to.
I think that would be it doesn't seem the job of the treasurer, and we don't have a secretary, but I believe that would be the secretary's role if we had a secretary.
Okay, so then I guess we have to also consider doing an election for a secretary for the DAO, and then maybe if we're doing it, maybe a president. I don't know if that's necessary though. It doesn't seem necessary.
I don't think so. I think secretary definitely is needed. President, not really. It's more of like a figurehead. I don't think we really need a president of a DAO.
Yeah, the treasurer was sort of like the figurehead for us.
Yeah.
FaZe, I appreciate that.
One thing on the KYC, I mean, I think it would, once we have a secretary, anyone even applying for the position should probably also like get vetted by the secretary and whatever entity background check that we're using for that. Because it was kind of silly to have an election of people that are vying for the position but haven't been background checked. Because if they win and they do get the background check, it turns out they're from a sanctioned country. It's just like not a great look. So I would say for future elections, once we have this kind of infra in place, it would be better to have a check before someone gets put on the list of potential DAO directors.
Yeah, I agree. There were some conversations about this. There were some points made against that, though, from certain people saying it's not ideal to KYC and then you don't get elected, and now you're doxed or your information's out there, which I totally understand. But I see why. Like for me personally, I'd rather KYC first. I mean, I'm already doxxed, so it doesn't matter to me. But KYC first, so that we can make sure. Because if we have an election and then you can't get on because your KYC is no good, then we have to have a whole nother election. It creates like this uncertainty and like prolongs the whole process. So
I mean, I don't. Do we really want I don't know. Maybe this is whack, but it seems like we don't really want a person that would care that much about their identity. Whether like if they don't get the position, they've like wasted their KYC or they've accidentally doxed themselves. Like that doesn't seem like the kind of person that we'd want to be a director anyway. I guess.
yeah, it's a weird
It
hill
shouldn't
to
really
die on.
matter.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
And as far as I think KYC, the way we've generally done it, I mean, we were using Fractal back very, very early on, like before they even had a token, or like I think they got hacked as well, unfortunately. But I think you would upload a passport to them and they would tell you, we were checking to see if people were Americans, basically, with Fractal. Yeah, for the curve. That was the KYC that we were doing. That was, but like I said, that was to check specifically, are they American or not? For this is a little bit different. We want to see, does this person actually exist? And are they from a sanctioned country? So it's a little bit more rigorous, I guess.
Yeah, fair. Okay, so I think I don't know how we managed to get 34 minutes into this meeting when we had no business. So that's
I love
great.
it.
Yeah.
I love the nitty gritty down. This is good stuff.
Yeah. And is there anything else, friends, in the chat that we should discuss before I guess we sign off? I think what I'll do is I'll ask Jesse if you can you drop the email for Juliet into, I guess, DAO discussions or DAO directors, whichever you think is the more appropriate channel. And then one of us, I can email them today, or Choina, I'll hit up AI to make myself not sound stupid and just basically ask for the information that we need so that we can move forward.
Yeah, I think Jesse can look for it. I'll also ping Ross here and see if I can get an answer from him. But yeah, not really banking on it, but we'll see.
Yeah, that sounds good. Also, there was let's go back up because I saw something from Zbot. We need to build business as a DAO to bring value to the IP as well as bringing revenue to the DAO. That is intriguing because like the DAO is an entity trying to be a revenue generating entity. We sort of aim for that with the games that are being developed. The idea that eventually they bring value to the DAO, but it's something we don't have to discuss that now. But something worth thinking about how we as a DAO can bring value to the IP beyond just building games. Like I know, like Piglet with the Gotchi greeters, like the idea of a merch store, like that seemed very intriguing. Having specific like merch that could be sold, and then those proceeds can go to the DAO. I don't know. I don't want to go into specifics of that or misspeak on it, but just more ideas where we can. As a DAO, enrich and bring value, because we talked about earlier the idea that rarity farming and wanting to have it to be a sustainable aspect of our ecosystem, because it is like one of the big draws of Aavegotchi in a lot of ways. And if we don't do something eventually, we are going to run out of funds. So being able to figure out ways to keep that those coffers filled, or to avoid them completely going empty, so that we can have sustainability with what we're doing here. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, one of the pillars of that is Pixelcraft is obviously also trying to be a revenue positive company, which will funnel back funds to the DAO, 20% of the gross. So we're still trying to stick by that. Obviously, it's a tricky market out there. We're trying our best here. But yeah, if the DAO wants to also explore like other potential initiatives, DAO definitely I think that's worth exploring.
Excellent. All right, friends. Is there anything else we should discuss? If not, we'll wrap it up here. We'll let Coder Dan and Jesse go to sleep, and then we can continue with our February since it just started.
Yeah, happy February, everyone. And yeah, make sure you're on X, checking out all the latest gotchi gifts and announcements that we put out. Give some love on the timeline. Let's get some gotchi action out there. And yeah, see you guys on the timeline and in the chat.
Yep. Also, remember, friends, the snapshot happens, I believe, Monday, right? Monday for Rarity
Yeah, we're
Farming.
going to put out an announcement 2 p.m. UTC on Sunday.
Nice. And then the
reminder.
registration for Gotchi Battler, the third round, goes live on the 3rd. I forget the exact time, but Brills can drop in a thing about that. So keep your eyes peeled for that. There's going to be some fun times ahead. And yeah, have a great weekend. Thank you for coming out to the DAO.
Thanks, friends. Thanks for hosting No Future.
Yeah, anytime.
Peace.